He's not here, right?
Right.
And Josh is gonna be online. And then I can close.
You saw the trailer, I haven't set up.
Not there yet.
Nope. Nope. Yes, he is. So we need to, does it send them something to accept or something, or we'd have to rejoin, or how's that work? Oh, there I guess, okay.
Yeah, it's in the.
You have to accept it or something. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay. We'll just use the microphone for when the reserve guy comes in. We'll put it here like we did last time.
Yeah,
I did that because we don't have that other capability. So
we don't. Okay. So we can hear, Josh is.
he's gonna chair it, but let's do this. Okay. John, you want to test your voice again?
Okay.
Testing.
Loud enough, right?
Good.
If I can see the designated.
Josh is online.
No, scary, I think even with the final states that other gave out, still.
Yeah.
Great, you know. We can tell you multitasking. You're great.
Sorry.
Here's the day. No, today, I was,
Wrong mom.
I know, it's cute.
It was cute.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was so cute. Thanks.
So, you gotta find the fun of the so if it's a true mistake, it has, sorry, but that was fun.
Right. Okay, Josh.
Josh, take it away.
Oh, good. I'm sitting here in my other house and I have no idea where we're at. Do we have our presenter on?
Not yet. He's coming on at 2.
Coming on at 2. Okay. Did everybody have a chance to read through the rather short
Guys.
reserve study?
Guys,
And Barry, the meeting is been called to
Called to
order,
order.
I believe.
Call it to order. Sorry. I'm used to these being on order when we open and start talking. My fault. Motion to open the meeting.
you just did.
Thank you. What is, I don't,
Review and approval of the draft agenda.
okay. Has everyone has reviewed it? Is that correct?
We're in the meeting.
Oh, we're starting the meeting?
Yes, he's started it.
Apologies.
Okay. Can you repeat that, Josh?
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the report from DMA Reserves?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been reviewed. Do we
So,
want, go ahead.
Louder. The deaf people like me.
We're as loud as we can go.
Okay.
so Josh, first is review and approval of the draft agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I don't have the agenda in front of me.
Okay,
I apologize.
it's okay. So anybody want to make,
I'll second Bill's motion.
on favor of the draft agenda?
I,
Aye.
Okay,
our draft agenda has, time that we can talk first, right?
yes. We all had time because he's not coming on until 2, so, yeah, I guess I didn't, put that on here, but we will have plenty of time. Then next is resident comments on the agenda items. Okay, Josh, it doesn't look like there are any resident comments. So we'll now go to the review and approval of the draft minutes from June 25th, 2026.
Very well then. And again, I don't have those in front of me, and I wasn't at that meeting.
Anybody want
I'm second.
Great.
all right, everybody good with the minutes as written for June 25th? All right, chairperson comments. Do you have any comments?
Sorry to be so dim-witted at this meeting. I'm just getting back on my feet. But thanks everyone for taking the lead.
Okay.
Any comments?
Next is management comments. I don't, really have anything either. Say, Kathy, do you have anything? We have the second draft of the study, was given to you. This was a result of the meeting that we had on June 25th. The changes that the committee requested that the reserve analysts make. And so this has resulted in a change to the increase in contributions going from around 12% to I think 8-point-something% each, 8.3 per year. And that was a result of, there were some changes of some things that were missing from the study, had to be added, or some things that had to be deleted or revised. But in addition to that, you all had asked that the assumption for interest income be increased to 3.5%. And then you also asked that the threshold be reduced to, don't remember off the top of my head,
8.6,
but I'm sorry,
is it 8.6?
Reduced to 3.
3% of the total current replacement value of the components for the threshold.
Oh,
So,
wait a second, I'm sorry. First of all, I apologize. I'm gonna have questions that I didn't have the last time because I'm an idiot and I just never did this before. So are we saying that, we're saying that 3%? How would I say this? Are we talking about like, is that like a cash positive minimum balance? What we're talking about with the 3%? What is that?
yeah, the threshold, the minimum threshold, which would mean that at any given time, we have at least X amount of dollars in the replacement reserves, and we won't hit below that level.
Okay, from what I understand, and I've talked to a lot of people in Conservancy in the last 2 weeks, as what most of them are either developers or, you know, owners, managers. In addition, both into nostalgia and a number of other people, it's my understanding for building the age of ours, which is 22 years old, which then starts moving us from the sort of, you know, 1 to 17 years, sort of, you're okay, you don't need to have a big reserve. But then after that, it should be something like 35 to 40% of what you're taking in your condo fees. To sit there, and if we're using a cash positive minimum buffer, that is like, reducing it to 3% is strictly outside of like what's considered generally acceptable financial and community association guideline. That's just not done. So I'm reluctant to say we should do that if that's basically what we're doing. And that's one of the questions I have, if that's what we're doing. Because what I was gonna ask, in addition to this, is, I guess, what percentage of our annual condo fee is dedicated to the reserves annually? And then the other question I had is, our reserve at least 70% funded? Is that how we're operating, or is there some other magic we're missing?
Our reserves are completely funded,
They are completely
Yes.
funded, okay, excellent, thank you. And then, meaning,
but I'd have to go get the budget to find out what percentage of our assessments are the.
Why does that make a difference though?
that makes a difference because of the age of our property, and also because of.
No, the assessment of fund, the assessment,
Yeah, use the mic, please.
the assessment of the LWVA encompasses operating,
Yes,
reserves,
yes,
and,
capital,
well, capital, yeah, technically working capital through the resale program.
right,
Those.
that's not very
But,
much,
you,
right?
we're not responsible for the working capital or the operating reserves.
I recognize that too.
Okay. So what difference is the percentage of that, of
Wait,
one or the other?
Wait, what reserves are we not, you said this.
Working capital and, operating,
Right, operating, right,
not reserves, operating
budget,
budget.
yeah, okay, that's why I got confused, okay. No, we're not responsible for all of that, and that is a question that I have, that I think is worthy of putting out there on the table. First of all, when we say 70%, or excuse me, 100% of our reserves are covered, right?
I mean, we have put into the reserves what we've been told to put in the reserves. We don't owe the reserve fund any money.
No,
That's
that's
a-
not, no. that's
So
not
I
what I'm
mean,
saying.
we're,
The reserves are not supposed, that's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking you is, when we give you guys money from our individual accounts, right? Given the age of our property, which does play into this, and more than anything else, it's the age and scope of our property that I researched. Okay,
Mhm.
the scope of our property is a bit different from most condominium associations. Given the fact that we have a clubhouse with an indoor pool and those beautiful lockers. And, you know, wood things, the wood shop and the beautician shop. And we have fountains everywhere that break down routinely, I can tell you. That break down routinely, as well as landscaping, as well as 44 acres of wooded property, which needs to be considered. That is almost more like in the resort pot as opposed to the condominium. Okay, when you talk about where we live, because it's not typical in Northern Virginia for any homeowners association, excuse me, condo association, to have that kind of scope of property. So when they start talking about the number of years of age, the 20-year-old, you know, the 20-year point to 35, 40-year point is where things really start to break down. And you have to do more investing in the property. So when you take that into consideration, the age is relevant. And the scope of what we have, some of which we have not included in our reserves ever. And I think there are liability issues for us not doing it. I question whether dropping this balance down to 3% is within the scope of what's done in standard business practice.
Well, I think there are a lot of things mixed up here. First of all, you talk about the age. That's why we do these things every 5 years.
I know that.
And
I used
that's
to,
why we hire professional engineers.
I used to be in strategic planning.
Well, okay, well,
Okay,
good. Well,
so I understand that. What
but you're not saying that.
I am saying that I recognize every 5 years we're doing a strategic plan or a reserve study. And I would argue we don't do a strategic plan, we should, so that's okay. We have a reserve study every 5 years, I recognize that. That doesn't mean that we have included the things that also need to be included in it, and
What-
perhaps
what
I'm
things-
wrong,
What things are those?
perhaps I'm wrong.
Well, why don't you tell us what those things are? We know better.
Yes, of course. Audra and I spoke, and Audra, you need to remind me, please. When you talk about, stormwater management issues, okay? Like what we had to do behind the, Riverview, pathway back there. We did that several times over and over and over. in building and grounds because we kept trying to do it on the sheet. There was never money in the reserves for it. I guess maybe they put it in finally, and then finally it got built properly, okay? In the long run, that costs us money, because every time we do it, you know, it's 2 years down the road and inflation goes up and everything costs something else. And we also didn't have the right landscape, arguably. So that is considered stormwater management, because they did far more than just build the full path. They literally put culverts in, they drain water away from the path now, the thing, I hiked it several times in the last month. That is a real pathway now. And that is the kind of stuff that when we talk about a 44-acre property has to be done at the 22-year point, and I'm underestimating, it's probably closer to 25 years. Okay, we have the same stormwater management issues on the other side of our map. And we need to figure out, and it should be in our reserves, it doesn't have to be done today. But it should be in our reserves as something that we planned for. That's what I'm talking about. And now, when you talk about stormwater management, maybe that's in the budget already and I'm missing
Well,
it.
if it's an existing stormwater management structure
And
or
they're not-
system,
Right,
and if they're not, then it would not be a replacement reserve expense.
okay, so what is the trough behind like the whole Woodridge Avenue trough of stone? What is that? Is that in there?
We don't own any property along Butcher's yet.
No, I'm saying on the fence side, like our side of the fence, behind Blue Ridge and Riverbend.
Okay, so you're talking about the large area that was the drainage area that was
That's
redone a few years ago. Okay, so
Is
that
in
is,
there?
that is existing
Okay.
and there should be funds and we can ask Doug to confirm for replacement and repair of that existing
Okay, because. it's
drainage
never-
system.
Like the pathway initially behind Riverview, it was never properly done. Okay, they didn't dig it deep enough. You can take a look at it, it literally goes, it flows uphill, which means the water doesn't actually flow the way. That is something that we need to consider in the out years that needs to be taken care of in part. It can be done in segments, it doesn't have to be done as one full thing. Our parking lot was the other thing we talked about. If we can't do it all in 1 year, do it in 2 years, do it in 3 years.
That's all they want is in here. That's all, that we
It's
got,
done in
you got over $2 million there, can get paid for over 2 years. They're gonna do it in 1 year and pay for it over 2 years.
Okay. That's fine.
That's the conversation we had here.
Okay, and that's why I said I may not have gotten it all the first time, so please excuse my ignorance.
Now, I'm also saying that the first thing we did when we made a decision as to whether or not to do a complete new survey, we were assured by management that there was nothing, anything special that had to be added to a survey.
I'm sorry.
I may disagree, but this is the way the survey is done.
Okay,
Now you suggesting a whole complete different approach.
No, first of all, understand something, this is my second meeting, third at most, okay? I was never made aware of any of these other things, we are part of a group, right? Not just 1 or 2 people, a lot of us, myself at least, don't have that level of expertise.
Well, I'm just telling you that this is the way we approach the problem.
Right,
Problem was understanding what kind of a survey do we want to have made.
you have.
Management said that they were satisfied with some tweaks. With the study had been done the last time. We did some additional tweaks that they found that they needed. We now have a plan here.
Right,
We have to spend. This plan calls for us to spend $4 million over the next 5 years.
I know,
Which suggests to me considerable expenditure to deal with the issues that we're dealing with.
it's a considerable expenditure because our parking lots will need so much repair.
The parking lots got almost over $2 million.
That's not a small amount, as you,
That obviously is what the engineers think it takes to do it.
right,
They're professionals.
right?
I'm not a professional in
No, but I say,
They are used to assume that it's not sufficient.
okay, I will back up here, all right? Just because I'm not an engineer doesn't mean as an owner in this particular condominium complex. I don't want to ask good questions about my investment, okay? And I kind of feel as though I represent the people who may not understand this. So
I'm just commenting on your comments.
I recognize your expertise. I don't have it, and I want to hear from you guys. But I need help understanding what we're doing, because when I start hearing things and researching things and telling people, hey, you know, they want to do this. I'm hearing like, what? And people are kind of in disbelief. And it's not as though I just rely on one or two people. It's people who are really, really, I consider experts in this area. Everything that I read, okay, says on a 44-acre property. You are not talking about landscape. You are talking basically about woodland preservation. You are talking about making sure trees get cut so that they're not a wildfire, you know, sort of danger, because that also have insurance impacts. It means making sure that a property of this age, and it is more than the clubhouse. Everybody, in my experience here, which is 10 years, has routinely focused on our clubhouse because admittedly, it is the sort of, I would say, star of our community. And people use this extensively, and we need to take care of it. And yes, I defer to Audra on everything, frankly, even the rule. And if it can be paid for out of your operating budget, that's all I need to hear. But what I don't hear is people talking about some of the systemic infrastructure issues that I know we have. Because I'm the person who walks through flooded gate, who walks through flooded gardens when they're not taken care of, okay? I'm the person who saw that leak yet again, right outside our building right over here. That's been going on for 2 or 3 years, and all I keep hearing is, oh yeah, it's nothing, don't worry about it, it's nothing, don't worry about it. Well, like 2 weekends ago, there was like 4 inches of water there. And I don't know if it's because we're not draining the water right, I don't know if it's because we have a sprinkler issue. I don't know what it is, but I'm on building and grounds and I kind of think I should. And if it is something that we need to start building into our infrastructure, that is all I'm saying, okay? I just think we have, it behooves us now at this age of our property, that we have a slightly broader vision of where we're going. So that is all in us. So anyway, Audra, is it included in your operating budget? If it is, yay.
But the point here is that if it's an existing structure or drainage system or
Whatever.
whatever you want to call it,
Right,
then there should be money in the reserves to upkeep it and replace it. But if we're talking about areas, and I think you're talking about areas that don't currently have drainage systems, and they're just areas where there's grass or hills or whatever.
they're not nice or hills, they're mud.
Okay, areas of mud that you feel that need attention, that is not a replacement reserve item. It would be planning, it would be the association planning for installation of a new system to solve that.
How does anybody then do your strategic plan, infrastructure wise? Because
Well,
if it
we
doesn't
talked
fall
about-
under reserve. I mean, how do you raise that? It's not raised during building and ground.
Well, it was a few years back and you had suggested that we do a topography study and I think we got proposals on doing that and it didn't go through. It wasn't.
It's not a way to manage strategically long run, okay?
But that
Because
was a decision that the committees and the board made at the
I
time.
grant you that. I
Yeah,
grant you that, but I would like to see, and I could be wrong, but either this committee talking about things like that, or another committee talking about things like that. So that we are looking down the road and strategically planning for things. As opposed to, well, it's not on our list this year, so we'll sort of scrape by and partially fund something. I see too many projects like that. That's my concern.
Well, the board is putting together, the 5-year strategic plan it's been 5 years since the last strategic plan. And the board is putting together a strategic planning committee. It's an ad hoc committee to review that plan and to see where some changes might need to be made. And maybe perhaps a suggestion should be made that they be more focused on things like you say, the outdoor, the property, the land versus,
No, it shouldn't be versus, it should be as a whole pot, okay?
yeah, I understand that, but the core of the strategic plan has been more of how to sell units in LWBA, how to keep our property up versus structural,
But that
things
is
that
part
need
of
to happen.
keeping our property up.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, if I'm a homeowner and my property is 20 years old. And there's been enough erosion over the last few years that my patio is falling. Well, I have to change my patio. I have to change that, how that water goes, right? And I just think rather than having. Sort of situations where we come into this with, oh, we need a special assessment on this. Oh, we don't have enough money for this. I would rather see, yeah, well, we put away money for this, like we did with the pool, we don't need it yet, but we'll use it at some point. But in the meantime, we can allocate it for something else. Makes sense?
Sorry, let me break in for a second. Those are all good points that you make, that we could reuse money, but then as soon as we reuse that money and the pool needs to be repaired, where do we get the money from?
Right.
We
No,
can't take it from you because we fixed your patio.
if you,
If we haven't had it put into the reserves committee already, if it's not a structure that's currently standing or funded, it needs to be put before a committee that can bring it into that.
and who is that?
And the only thing we can do to that is join that committee with enough people and explain to them that this is what the residency is concerned about. This committee cannot solve that problem. I
Okay.
apologize.
So what you're telling me is there is no, I agree.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that more people need to attend more meetings and express their concerns about this. You, as well as I know, that one person standing up, yelling and screaming and fighting the argument is not going to pass the rest of the people. We've seen it happen.
That's right. Okay, so the last question I have then is, can we say what percentage of our annual condo fee do we know is part of our strategic reserve?
I'd have to go get the budget.
I don't have everything.
But I did want to make one comment.
Please,
The
yes.
3% threshold is different than what's in the reserve study. Everything that should be in the reserve study is here, and it has a value
Okay.
attached to it. That 3% threshold
No, I
is
know.
saying, it's not saying items aren't in the reserve
No, I
study,
know
it's
that.
saying this is the minimum balance.
No, I recognize
I
that,
just
and
wanted
based
to-
on what I read, that is.
Kathy,
I
I
love
say we would trip if I understand.
Okay.
Okay, Audrey, just real fast, whether to listen for that. First of all, I want to make note that I love the way you describe this difference between condos and LWBA. There's the condos where we live, and then there's the resort. Feeling of what, and agree, I think that's one reason why probably. Always live there, is that it is a remarkable community. I thought part of what we were doing here is we are incrementally replacing components that are gotten old, that need to be replaced. But I think to your point, is looking to improve incrementally as we preserve these assets. And let's use the parking lot as a great expensive example that Bill pointed out. Is let's not just tear it up and we pave it, it's let's tear it up where we know that there's problems that need to be addressed because it needs maybe another French drain to keep it from spidering,
Right,
then incrementally improve.
Right,
while replaced.
absolutely.
It doesn't cost much more.
No.
To do that.
And
So
along
that,
that, it saves you money.
oh, of course it does. It makes for a much nicer parking lot. It stops a lot of that spider. It stops that water.
It saves you from routine maintenance, because what I have seen over the last 10 years
Right,
is us as, and again, I'm just gonna go back to building and grounds, because that's what I'm most familiar with. Okay,
sure.
that's not a dig on building and grounds, it's not anything, it's just what I know. I have seen many issues come up. And they are simply deemed, oh, well, we don't have that in our budget, can't do it. And it's sort of like, well, you do realize if you invested in this now, you won't have to do it in the future.
Sure.
So I'm going to the, you know, when we had to tear up our gardens, right? How many times did we re-landscape that? Hoping that whatever we pick would grow there, and having landscapers who all told us, yeah, this will all work. Without any, but that water under there, that didn't happen overnight. If we have 12 inches of water sitting under a garden, that's not something happening overnight. It's a garden built on our spring. Well, rather than year after year spending money, and I remember poor Karen trying to double the money for the amount of landscaping we had that year, putting different flowers out there, why not just like figure out that, hey, you've got to do this. You may as well do this now, so that when we can plant the flowers, we don't have to do it 5 times.
Well, we did come to that conclusion, but we also can only rely on the professionals that provide us with the
I know.
information.
I know,
And so we were told, I mean, there were cattails and huge things that thrive, and though it was we didn't like those, so we took all those out.
but
And
that's where, again, and you're right, we
Yeah.
can only be as smart as the professionals we
we
hire,
rely,
right? So I'm there.
yeah,
And I go to Doug, for example, he recommended some numbers to us before, which, okay, 12% might be high. But can we not take that and over a period of 4 years, just raise everything 1% a year? And then stretch out a couple of projects so that if instead of 1 year, we do it 2 or 3 years. And still like meet thresholds. I'm very worried when I see us falling below in 2030 or 32, like the yellow line. I mean, that is unacceptable. By no standard can we do that. And maybe I'm crazy. So this is, gentlemen, the people who know what they're doing, tell me I'm crazy.
While you're thinking if Mary Ann's crazy or not. Wayne has calculated the percentage of our contribution is 16.3% of our.
16,
I make that co-host. Yeah.
wait, 16 or 60?
16.3%.
Okay, that is like, you can know anything that anybody thinks is okay. As I understand.
Who is anybody?
I just told you when I first began
Well-
speaking, most of the people that I work with are on the Conservancy. Most of them are developers of the properties here in Lansdowne, as well as property owners within Lansdowne. In addition, I did my own research, and pretty much everything that I'm reading, as well as what the gentleman here Doug was telling us last time, was, hey, look, you don't want to do this. So, no, I'm sorry, that's okay, I'm made my point, go ahead.
Is there a target? Intelligence, like, I mean, again,
Yeah.
15% is not something small to look
It's
at
not.
as a LWBA expense.
Okay.
Understand?
No, the lowest, like, let's say we had a new condominium complex, right?
Sure.
Generally, you're supposed to have between 17 and like, I don't know, 30%, anywhere between there, depending upon what problems you have. I'll give you an example, the Cadence, when it was built, which is one of the 55+ communities in Lansdowne. When that was built, it was done during COVID, and truthfully, they have, talk about serious drainage issues. But the builder did not build it appropriately. The Cadence is no more than 5 years old. they already have sidewalks that are lifting because they didn't deal with that appropriately from the start, right?
Sure.
So that is, we would probably go, it's a new community, but dear Lord, they didn't build it right, so now we have to go on the high end of investing, right? As condo fees, and that's why a lot of those people are complaining. Now, for us, we are a 22-year-old property, and it really is more like 25, but I'm being generous. I'm being generous and sort of doing an average, right? Everything that I read, to include everything that everyone I have spoken with, and I've named my sources, everyone, says that really you should have 45% of your like regular condo fee invested in your reserves because you're gonna need it down the line. And it is supposed to be a reserve that like we do have, is like a 50-year reserve, basically, it goes out for many, many years.
Sure.
Meaning that if we include the woodland and the woodland, you know, cutting dead wood down and doing whatever it is, it doesn't mean we gotta do it today. It just means we're investing toward it, so that when we do need to do it, it's there. The
Okay,
reason there are dead trees all throughout the Riverview area is because nobody even thought through that.
okay.
And every time, go ahead.
I just want to say, we don't want to waste Doug's time.
No, we don't.
He's here
Hello.
and we want to move, we can continue those type of conversations.
That's separate.
Thank you, Audra.
So can I say one thing that will actually lead into Doug talk, which is, we use DNA before. And we trust that their method of calculation, that we're comfortable with. We
Why
like
should I stop? That's right.
because their company deals with communities and amenities of our size and level. And I think that's what made us very comfortable with hearing from Doug, with hearing from DNA, with the methodology. I think that's the big thing we're trying to get, especially with Doug here today.
Yeah.
And it's, are we comfortable with the way that they're driving, the way that they're arriving, the way that they're
Yes.
calculating, what's it? If we want to put more stuff in, cool, let's have the meeting. But let's hear again from Doug, based on the adjustments that he's made. And we can see that it makes sense and that, again, he's doing what we've asked him to do.
We have asked him to do it, but I also want his personal opinion because I pay for Doug.
Oh,
We're not gonna listen to his advice.
exactly. Opinion matters and his experience matters because
Oh.
that's fun. That's the value.
Doug, don't mind pushing up against us.
So I came in the middle of your discussion, so I'm not sure I heard all of that, but I did hear the part about you mentioned 35% as a range in a condominium, and I just want to clarify that this association is a master association, not a condominium, and it's a different relationship through the
Correct,
assessment to the reserves.
correct.
Um,
I'm misspeaking.
so
It's an association.
yeah, so I sent you a revised report, and the significant changes. Well, we made some significant changes in the last meeting, and I made a couple of those in the report, which actually reduced the increase in the starting annual increase in the reserve funding, which I can put that on the screen if I'm able to, Audra.
I think you're made
I am able to. You're right. How about that? Okay, let me find it now. Okay. So we were, I think, at about 12% in these first few years. We did a couple of things, including a main item being to spread the paving over a 2-year period. So we have this down to 8.6% increases each year from 27 through 2032, then dropping for a couple of years to 5% and then down to 1.1%. Now, one of the things that I think may have been in your discussion and might be something that is worth looking at if you want to make sure you're being, let's say, conservative enough in planning, is we might increase this threshold which is not, and let me bring this up again. It's 3%. I guess we reduced it to 3% actually. So actually I'm not sure I would recommend doing that, but that was a discussion that the committee recommended last meeting.
What would you recommend, Doug?
I started at 5% and, again, looking at the number of years where there are larger expenditures, I would like to see that line a little higher. That's my feeling.
Gonna say, we shouldn't technically, tell me if I'm wrong, please, I'm new at this, don't know what I'm doing, whatever. But I don't think we're supposed to really fall below the yellow line, and we do that in 32 and 34.
No, the green line is the line you want to keep above the yellow line, and the green bars are above the yellow line.
We're talking at the same time.
The red bars are expenditures. They have nothing to do with your fund. The green bars are your reserve fund, and they are staying in 32 and 34, right at the just above the threshold, and we get close to it again in 52 or 51. But actually lowering the threshold was one of the things that helped reduce that annual increase to 8.6%.
Like, instead of increasing it adequately, could we do like 0.5% a year or a 1% a year? So that it, our fees are increasing gradually as opposed to suddenly?
No, you can't do that.
No, okay.
Let me do that. Let me do a 1% per year starting out. Okay. So, you'll go broke. You'll get by the first few years, and then
No.
the board out here will have to.
She meant increasing the threshold.
Increasing the threshold. Well, okay, yes.
Thank you.
Forgive me for that. So that is a structural thing I can't do. I can't within the program, I can't increase it. But at the same time, let's look at it this way, which would have the same effect. Let's just put it up to 5%. Now we could say that we know we've increased it, and if we were doing what you suggested, if we were at 3% here, this would be okay. So we could say, we could aim for, let's say by 2035, that we'd like to get to the 5% line. And I can create a funding plan that does that. Which, let me just see. Back here. Yeah, so let me take this out. So I was dropping down to 5% in 2 years. If I keep the 8.6%, that would get us to a 5% threshold in 2035, at least visually. Let's see, that's $500 under, but that's pretty close. So that would accomplish, I think, what you're talking about. We would just say, and we could acknowledge that these 2 years are below that. They would meet a lower threshold, but and again, the threshold's an arbitrary number. So we set the threshold higher with the goal that we'll meet it by 2035. And
what years are they? I'm sorry, I can't quite see. The years that they are below is what?
2034 and 2032. Yeah, I'm sorry, you're on a screen there and
that's
trying to see it in the room.
That's because of the parking lot?
Well, it met the 3% threshold. It doesn't meet yes, we've got several years of projected projects here. So let's look at that.
32 is the move.
Yeah.
You have 3 years in a row that it's,
30 is over $1 million, which again, just a number of things that are showing up. The asphalt is one of those in 30. and the asphalt is in 31. So those are the two big things those years. And this is one that, we don't know if you'll have to do this or not, but the tennis court roof is currently showing up in 2032.
Okay.
And in 2033, it's really just a hodgepodge of things that are starting to show up. Nothing jumping out in that group. And that's a smaller number. So it's really the, those 3 years there where we had over $1 million of expenditures are what's driving that to be a little bit below the threshold. 34, we have $1.5 million. That is getting into window walls, which again,
Yeah, we pushed
may or
that.
may not need to be done. So that's those are the things that are driving that, holding that balance down in the first few years. As a reserve provider, I wouldn't have any problem using this plan and just saying, we know it's coming in below the threshold, but we're setting a funding goal to get to the threshold by 2035, given that we've set the threshold a little higher at 5%.
And if we altered our funding goal, could we incrementally raise our allocation of condo fees or whatever the HOA?
Well, I'm not sure what you're asking.
We add more to our
Again, this 8.6% in the model we're looking at translates to a 3 to 4% increase in your overall assessment. So we're not saying that you need to raise your whole assessment 8.6%. That's just, that's 20% of your assessment.
But 3 or 4%, like, I mean, if you look at apartment complexes, just having an apartment, they increase the rent by 10% each year. I mean, 3 to 4% is pretty low, I think, personally. Not that I want to spend money on this. These are my fees too. But that's maybe a separate symptom.
Yeah, and that's shorter term. Again, if everything works as the plan shows, it would drop down in later years to really just under the inflation rate. So.
And then for the costs that we have in here, it does, I believe, Andre, you said, include materials as well as labor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And Mary Ann, I just wanna say, any increase in assessments is met with resistance.
I recognize
It's,
that.
and so,
That's
you
why
know,
it
if you were to
says-
say, oh,
Okay.
6%, it's not.
That's why I say they're my dues too. Believe me, I don't want them to
I'm just
increase.
saying, it's,
We have a building that right now, 25% of what our condo fees are go into that building, all right? I don't want my fees here to increase either. I don't want my conservancy fees. All right, I'm retired, all right? So I get it, but I'm also saying we have a fiduciary duty to this property, if nothing else, that's all.
So, Audra, let me ask, I mean, before we jump off of this topic, that is a big deal between that 3 or 5% threshold objective that we would be putting up to the other BPA board. What do we as a committee feel we're comfortable with having this long sit? Is it 3%? Is it 5%?
I'm just looking at these charts, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but. I don't see with the 3% formula that during the next 5 years of this study. Anytime that we go below the threshold. The study ends in 31. At that point, we probably have $1.2 million in the bank. And the threshold is 400,000.
Right, but
So I mean,
Look at
it's
what's in the-
considerably above the threshold. At no point it's below the threshold.
Yeah.
So you're saying it's below the threshold,
Look
it's
at
not.
what we need to spend. That's why it's going to a million, of course.
These people, the professionals said, this is what you need to spend.
He said 5%. That's what you.
Individual items, first year,
Okay,
$4
I'm
million,
not talking about the.
$4 million. Or the next 5 years.
Keep in mind, it's a savings plan and you're accumulating money because you're spending it right here. And that these going down is the result of spending money.
That's right. Thank you. That's my point.
Well, with that said, and this may be more of a question for you, Audrey, we don't have a restaurant right now. We haven't had a restaurant in a while, but yet in here, we're accounting for a restaurant.
Right.
How are those costs or?
How is that part of the reserve?
Sure, but at the same time, the fact that we don't have a restaurant right now, does that mean that is there a cost to us to in any way? I
Well,
mean,
we're not
how-
going to spend unless we have a restaurant agreement. We're not going to spend any funds replacing things that don't need to be replaced because they won't be used. So we just will simply, not do them.
Mhm.
And then, you know, if it ever comes to the point where we won't have a restaurant
Right.
ever again, then those things will come out of the replacement reserve.
But in the
study.
meantime.
We need to keep them in just in case.
It's there, but it's
Yeah.
still there.
It's
and
still
it's
there.
like everybody else has
Can
it.
you allocate it for these things?
No, you don't, you know, nickel and dime and allocate, just
Right.
like with the operating budget, we don't say, well, we were $50 under here, so we're gonna put it over here. It's just either you're under or you're over, and at the end of the
Okay.
year, it is what it is.
Okay.
So no, you don't really, I mean, mentally in your mind, you can think that way, but it's not like you're redoing the budget every time you have an underage or an overage.
So, but if you don't have a restaurant by the end of the year, that's money that we should have with that.
Well, it would just stay in the account.
Okay.
Because we did put in for 2026, because at the time when we were doing the first draft, I thought that we were going to be needing that money. I mean, I still don't know what that answer is gonna be. It's becoming less doubtful and it's already mid-July, so. If you all wanna take it out and put it in another year, I mean, pushing it back a year to 2027, I don't know, would make a huge difference.
Right on.
It shouldn't, but again, yeah, that would be your first step would be to defer projects if the schedule of getting a restaurant operator on board is not being met, then you defer these to when you think it might be met. Long term, if you got to the point where you said, you know, we're just not going to have a restaurant, then you're going to end up spending money to repurpose that space.
Sure.
So you need to have, so I wouldn't pull any restaurant money out of there because it will go to another use.
In any given year, we have unspent reserve allocations.
Right.
And we don't make them go away, we don't dissipate, the money stays, that helps keep the balance up.
Right.
So the 3% is balances a little bit higher because we have unspent type things.
I mean, and it could be used as a point of negotiation with a restaurant, which is, hey, come in, we'll give you new chairs out there, we'll give you new tables on the outside, we'll give you a new fryer, give you a new hood. You know, it's all gonna be brand new if you come in, so that gives Audra a little bit more leverage. And it's just be sitting in our reserve,
Does it,
until Randy's so perfect.
does it give you more like,
Does it really?
Some operator, they love a brand new hood or a brand new fryer.
Yeah.
Because who knows what single serve is, right?
No, you can't.
Have to be.
There's other problems.
That's about that.
But again, so the fundamental question is, are we as going to become more comfortable with 5% threshold showing or the 3% that is in there today?
And the interest rate too, Doug, do you have any comment about the reduction in the interest or the increase?
We actually increased it.
Yes. What are your thoughts? Any
The
thoughts?
level of achievability.
You know, that really comes down to how well you can manage those investments. I mean, my feeling is long term, I'm not sure we'll have a long-term rate measured over the period of the study of 3.5%. We're typically using 2.5% to be more conservative. But short term, if you're getting that or better now, we could certainly look at that now, and you, at any time, we can come back and adjust it. But I'm typically not putting that in. I'm typically putting in 2.5%.
And that's what you had in our first draft for us.
Yes.
You had the 2.5%, and then you had the 5% threshold.
Threshold, right?
Can you change the interest rate income rate from, we have raised to 3.5%? Can you change that in two years from now, or?
Yeah.
Is it a
I can change it
flexible-
anytime. I can't change it manually in the study for certain years. That's the only thing I can't do in the program.
Because right now we exceed that.
That's good.
Yeah, right. You probably are exceeding it right now.
I think we're actually. Undercount a little bit here, I'd like to see a little bit higher than 3 point. But. It's not gonna be up to me in this.
I thought 3.5% was still a little bit more than what
Yeah, but
when DMA was looking
so-
for, but still is a conservative enough number that doesn't put us in jeopardy. Now, I think we're gonna deem it, at least for the next few years, we'll probably say the 4%, which would be great,
Depends how you invest it.
but, and that's the thing.
It's CDs, there's no, it's CDs, that's it.
CDs, yeah.
It's 100% CDs or treasurers, whatever I decide I want to do.
And that's fine.
I just put 100,000 out for 3 years at 4.3.
Right now, we're getting a little bit better, right?
But the point is, but you can go out 3 years, see. Right now, you can go out 3 years, you've got 3 years at a fixed rate of 4.3.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's heck of a high end.
These
That's
CD
2.5.
portfolios, these laddered CD portfolios are have a lot of inertia. They don't change rapidly at all.
That's right.
Sure. And when we're. You know, getting 4.3 now, this gonna last 3 years. In the portfolio.
Yeah.
So getting where we are right now is about 4%. Year.
I think the last one I bought, I got 3.8 or something like that, but then it went up again.
As I say, I just
It
bought.
just went up again.
I just bought today,
It's
3
gonna be
years,
hard to get
4.3%.
the average for the next 5 years.
I've been sitting on the sidelines for about the last 3 months, not investing. Keep leaving it in the money market.
Yeah.
Waiting for this report, in essence.
We have a money market.
This Kathy and I had a little discussion about sitting on the sidelines, and we'll see what happens. But looking at this report, I have funding liabilities for 29, 30, 31, 32 that are much more serious than we had anticipated. So we need to raise our rate and keep contributing that increase.
So it sounds like you're more comfortable with the 5% of reserve. With sticking at the estimated amount still around 3%, 3.5%.
If he changed it to 5%, we're still gonna be under 1 or 2 years.
Sure,
Did I say that right?
No. Oh,
Not during the first 5 years, you say.
no,
Okay.
Yeah, you would, if he changed, it's at 5% right now, see those, there's two that are under 2 years, 2032 and 2034. But he's just saying you would,
But he's talking about 5 years.
You got 5 years study there.
yes, but he understood.
I'm just saying we know that, and we know we're aiming for a period when we'll be at 5%. And I think that's a reasonable approach to a plan.
And that keeps it at 8.6%.
Yeah, for through 2034.
Okay.
That's fine.
So we're saying 3% or 3.5%? 3.5?
I think you can keep that in there for now. I mean, again, you can come back and reevaluate it at any time.
Okay. My thing is, when we talk about 5% versus 3% for your threshold. Yeah, it is only a 5-year study technically. But you don't want to go into your 6 and 7 with a crisis and you don't have enough money for it. That is really the reason you're doing it. Not because you just want to cover 5 years.
Are there more questions for Doug, or Doug, is there anything that we haven't covered that you feel needs to be discussed? Are there any questions for Doug about the components or?
Well, I think the components, we may have issues among ourselves. But I don't know if Doug can answer them or not.
Right.
I think with Doug, the real question is, are we comfortable with the model that he's using and presenting to us? And
Yeah.
I still think the answer is yes.
Yeah,
You know, so without killing Doug's time, I'd say, you know, again, Doug, you and DNA have done exactly what we asked for, which is an intelligent model, which is something we can base it on with a couple of tweaks that we're comfortable with presenting to the board.
and also based on his recommendations, that's why we're paying.
Absolutely. So it sounds like, once Doug gets off the phone, we'll debate again whether or not the 5% threshold makes a lot more sense presenting that up to the board as a committee, which probably does make
And
sense.
making sure that we have in our reserve plan, it needs to be in our, or at least that we have an understanding of where it's coming.
Doug,
Sure.
at 5% threshold, what does that change the increase rate to?
All I did was in the report I just sent you yesterday or the day before, I had dropped in 2033 and 2034, I had dropped that increase to 5% per year. I just restored that to 8.6%.
Yeah.
So it's just changed those 2 years, and that got us up here in 2035 to the 5%.
Okay, and remember, and I think you said something that. Let me make sure either you said it right or I heard it right, which is. During those years, we're gonna be in a crisis. No, we'll be below the threshold. We won't be in a crisis. Okay, okay, that's what I heard. Right, we'll be under a threshold. But we'll still have reserve money, so we're still.
Yeah, it's not, you're not, I know it's hard when you look at this line to say, oh my God, we're below it. It's an arbitrary line. And it's a line to set a long-term goal to keep your funding at a higher level. And
It's a
we
long,
can view this as a transition time to get there, and it's fine. You're gonna have money in those years. It's just not quite up to the yellow line.
Got
Doug, can you refresh my memory if we added funding to the replacement reserves for an area over between Blue Ridge and Riverbend where we currently have drainage ditch system?
We did not add anything because I really didn't know how to quantify it or how to put a number on it. If we want to create, I'm saying we didn't add anything. Let's just go and to the components.
Your point, we probably should put something like that in. I didn't know there was a problem between those buildings, but if there is, then.
Well, the thing is that there is an existing drainage system there already.
I mean,
Yeah, we just have some general allowances, and if we want to add something that, if you want to create a line item for some potential work there that you think is going to happen.
Right, and find the invoices for when we last did the work over there to see how much it cost when that work was done. Would that help?
Sure. I mean, in the absence of doing that, what this study is saying is if you're doing work on that, we would assign that to this line item, which has only 42,000 every 10 years. So we may want to rethink that. But if you send me that information, I can decide how I'd want to address it.
Okay.
And we can do that.
and that has to be for like the whole property. It's either coming out of our budget and modeling to come with it, or if it's not coming out of our budget, where it's gonna come from.
Yeah, and again, it would depend if there's already an existing drainage system in place.
Okay.
Otherwise, you're putting in new infrastructure and that really wouldn't be a replacement reserve expense.
Right.
Okay. Even if we have like a stormwater management kind of broad.
That's what he was just showing. We do have one. 42,000.
We could, we can play that a little bit. I mean, obviously, the intent of the reserve of the reserve requirements is that you're replacing something that's already in existence.
Right.
But you can also say, and it's like any other specific component, you can say, well, I'm replacing that, but I want to upgrade it at the same time. And you can fund that out of the reserve account. So you could take the mental approach of saying, I have a system, a drainage system in place. I want to upgrade it a little bit with this additional piece. We could probably fund that out of the reserve account. I mean, not something major, but something that just makes this, but what it's doing is it's making the system work better. I think we could have a logic for paying for that out of the reserve account.
That's good.
Okay, so what should we make that 42,000 number, or do you want me to send you what I've got first and?
I'd like to see what you got. I think because I may want to either adjust that number or adjust the recurrence and make it happen more often.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
And I think that lives in the spirit of what we're trying to get done, which is improve,
Over
but
time.
preserve the investment that we've already got.
Exactly, so we don't all get like, oh my God, there's a crisis, and we all have to like jack up our feet, that's all.
Incremental.
Inside.
Yeah. Okay. I like this so far. I'll admit to this, I'm gonna work. Thanks, Audra.
well, usually that's how it
Yes,
goes.
yes.
That's okay, you're paying me for it.
What about for the irrigation system or sprinklers,
Mm-hmm,
recognizing that there's been a lot of debate over whether or not to, in the event that one day we determine that Riverview may need some,
that would be something new.
but she
Addition.
said you can expand the system.
No, I don't think he meant in a completely different area of the property. I don't think that was your intent.
If we
Was
have-
this adding irrigation?
Adding irrigation in front of a building where there is none currently.
Yeah, that would really be an addition.
He's saying creating it like with technology, because there's newer technology or.
An extra drain.
Or an extra drain or something like that,
Yeah.
not.
And then, the other question, there was one more.
Oh, yeah, like putting some type of
Awning
awning
over
over it, something.
patio,
I mean,
heater.
and I'm saying.
That's not reserved
That's
either,
not reserved.
no.
Okay. I mean, cause it's one of those, does that preserve the table and chairs a little bit more by putting an overhead there? Or-
So we've been through that a couple of
Okay.
years ago as well, but it wouldn't be, that's why we have, working capital
Got
for
it.
those things.
What percentage of working capital is our whole budget? Not that much.
We don't contribute, resales go to working
Yeah,
capital,
I
and
know.
right now it's about 160,000.
That's not. that
Well, yeah,
much.
okay, anything else for Doug? And then we'll decide, I'll get that information to you, Doug, so that you can update that, and then they'll decide what they're gonna be recommending to the board on the interest rate and the threshold, and then I'll move it forward to the board at that point, once you replug.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Patient.
All right, thank
All right.
you.
Thanks,
All
Doug.
right. Thank you, folks. I will stop sharing and I will leave. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Alright.
Okay.
And you just mentioned it, it's our recommendation to the board. Do they have an expectation of when we owe them this kind of recommendation and everything? I mean, is it for just at next meeting or?
I would just say that the sooner the better, only because the budget, this number needs to go into the draft budget, and we're starting the draft budget process with the budget committee next week. That being said, it doesn't have to be set in stone. I mean, it sounds to me like it's still gonna be somewhere around 8% regardless,
Yeah, it
so.
wants to- we
Um,
have a base figure the various committee can work on.
yeah, so I mean, it's not,
That's a big piece of the budget, 60% of the budget,
Of
so
course.
you gotta know what that is going in, so.
that being said, I mean, you don't have to make a recommendation today if there's still more thought that needs to be put into it. That's up to the committee. Because we're gonna use whatever, we're gonna put 8.6 for now, that's what the number we're gonna go with, but. It doesn't sound like it's gonna change majorly. If you guys even wanna make minor adjustments, so.
I mean, for our chairperson, I guess my recommendation. I'll put it out there is, I like that 5% reserve amount, and I like the a little bit less than conservative 2.5% that Doug was recommending. I feel more comfortable putting the rate of earning at 3%,
I agree.
3.5%.
Not full 3.5.
Yeah,
He has it at 3.5.
Okay, then keeping it at 3.5% with reserve going up.
And we can change that a few years down the road.
Absolutely.
We can change it.
Absolutely, depending on the way.
Well, we're gonna get this program, we're gonna,
Yeah, we're gonna be able to.
we can change it next week quickly.
Sure.
right,
Miss Kathy.
Good call.
per county.
Okay. Each old dog, new tricks.
Okay,
So do we want to make a decision at this point? I see shoulders shrugging. I don't see yeses and nos.
That's the voting side.
It's not one of those, if not today, we better have a meeting soon, so we can get something.
I was perfectly content with what's on page 45. Says 3.5%, using the 3% formula. I don't see any place during the next 5 years that we fall below a threshold.
Yeah.
And I think we should move ahead on that, and I would put that forward as a recommendation.
I said that.
And I agree.
1% and 3%.
Well, that was not the motion he just made.
Okay, then I just,
So,
then we can vote.
sorry, can I go through that one more time?
I said, on page 45, that you have scheduled view showing what the next 5 years would look like in this study. At no point that I can see do we fall below the threshold during that 5-year period. And that says 3.5%. And that's the number that I would recommend. And I would recommend that as a proposal.
So he, just to clarify, Bill, you're proposing the 3.5% interest assumption. And the threshold being 3% of the total value.
The threshold be the number that we have here.
Yeah, the one, that's what he used as
That's what
3% in this report.
So I mean, if I understood him right,
So you're talking the investment average rate at 3.5 with the threshold at 3.
Yes, that's what the motion that Bill made.
okay,
The recommendation.
let's do the motion, then I have a comment.
Okay,
We haven't. She said.
Kathy seconded the motion, so now you can make your comment. Go ahead, Bill.
On page 45, he mentioned that he took year 33 and 34, instead of making the transfer increase 8 points, instead of being 5, he raised it to 8.6.
That was only when he changed the threshold to 5%,
Right,
Okay,
because he was trying to.
I misunderstood that.
Yeah,
So you have a motion and a second, so I think we need a vote.
Yep.
It's the chair anyway.
Josh is the chair.
Josh is fine with that. He agrees with the motion.
I'm sorry, say again?
I agree with the motion that's been seconded.
Your vote is yes, Bill. Yeah, John.
You know, I like the 3.5%, but I like the 5% rush.
I do, too.
Is that a no or a yes?
That's a no.
So that's a no.
So that's a no.
Kathy, you're deciding vote.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, so 3-2,
that's the recommendation.
the recommendation passes and that's the recommendation. of the board.
I just want to point out that was not his original recommendation. And we're paying for this guy.
So I will point that out to the board, what the original
Thank you.
recommendation.
No, I say 5.
Yeah,
You said 5. You're trying to come-
But again. Doesn't put anybody in jeopardy, it just makes that threshold.
This is your well reserved. There's no.
Right.
there's no-
I mean, what we talked about and Dave mentioned that even though this items are scheduled to spend in that year, that doesn't mean that they get spent in that year. As a result, the threshold is gonna be higher than this year. This is a worst case scenario
Yeah.
that says everything happens exactly as it's supposed to. And that's not the real world. That's not the world we live in.
That's true.
Things are gonna slide and you're gonna have higher balances on the threshold. And higher balances in the reserve.
The only
We also
downside,
have things slide forward.
So much of this,
we've seen that happen.
Yeah.
If you've been around the finances of this place, things don't get done because they just don't need to be done.
Right.
And then things that were scheduled for 2 years from now had to be done, that we just had that pool patch thing that,
Yeah,
so.
Was that early?
So it balances out overall in the long run, give or take $100,000, which, by the way, is not serious money when you're in,
That's not true.
it's nothing in this reserve, so.
And
it won't
these-
cover the drainage system for the garden.
What's that?
I said the 100,000 would not cover the drainage system for the garden. I think it's a good plan and I agree. You know, we saw this all the time where we're fixing things that we had counted on lasting 20 years. And then we end up not fixing something that we thought would last about 12 months. Nothing is fixed in life. So I think this is a good plan and I think we'll do well by it. And it's only 5 years.
Goes by fast.
So
It'll be a plan and things will change.
at this time, I don't think we need to schedule another meeting unless the board comes back with questions or additional information requested, so. It's maybe the last meeting, but we'll let you know, Josh, you wanna ask if there's an open forum, anybody in the audience?
Anybody got any questions? I see folks sitting in the back. They're either sleeping or have given up.
I've got one more question.
Okay.
I know it's small, and I didn't put the notes, and I thought we talked about it, but, because it is within the 5 years, is as we replace the roof. Over the tennis courts, does that also include the repair replacement of the tennis court, or is it not? I couldn't remember, I couldn't find it.
I think there was the cloth for the court included in it. I don't know about the surface itself.
So your tennis court surface, the tiles, we had replaced, within the last 5 years.
Right,
The tennis court roof is something separate, it's the subsurface underneath.
right,
And so when we had the tiles replaced a few years back, we said, does it make sense to replace the tiles now? Because they're gonna have to be taken up when we replace the roof.
right,
And the answer from the engineer was, is that, and also the company that we were working with, is that they should be pliable enough and last long enough that we would be able to remove them and then put them back. And yes, the cost of doing that would be included in the replacement reserves because yeah, it's necessary to do the project.
And that's when the pickleball court was added.
Right, that's right. Mhm.
okay, sorry, I see.
The probability of doing that roof on that schedule is very low, I would think.
Yeah, they'll probably get pushed,
I think pushed extensively,
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'm just focusing on things that are 5 years that might.
but you got a plan in case it happens.
Right. Mhm.
Okay, cool, thanks, Doctor.
Okay, you're welcome.
In that case, motion to close.
Move to close.
All right, Mary Ann. We'll call it at 2:47.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thanks, Josh.
You're welcome.
Thanks, George.